Hey everyone, Avros here, back with the next Lufenia fight, which is for the Trey Lost chapter that's just come out, along with his LD weapon. And this one is a bit of an interesting fight. So we've got the two evil gays, same as the event when he first came out, except now obviously at Lufenia difficulty. So these two start with their orb as soon as the quest starts with a 15 count. It will disappear when they hit 29% HP and does not return, but you do need to get them down there of course first. And the orb is increased by bravery damage via debuffs. So obviously this quest is designed to take advantage of a couple of Trey's abilities there, both his Firewall, which triggers on the enemy's turn, and Dynamite Arrow, which can trigger on anyone's turn, as long as it's 2 turns since the debuff went up, if he has the Dynamite Arrow at 2 charge. Other characters obviously can deal with that. Anyone with any sort of sap or anything like that is what you really kind of need to get on them there and make sure that all works. That being said, they are immune to generic sap, so it does need to be a specific debuff to actually do the sap effect itself. Other things to keep in mind, they absorb wind and holy damage, so you can't really bring Paladin Cecil or Kuja, a couple of the two burst weapon users we've had fairly recently, who got their burst weapons Kuja got his LD board upgraded and Cecil just got his burst recently, but they do a lot of holy damage, so neither of them can come to this fight. Again, immune to sap as far as debuff goes. They're also immune to attack and defense down debuffs. They will cleanse generic debuffs often, so you want frames up on them to prevent that from happening. Most of their attacks ignore bravery damage reduction effects, if you've got any of those. And they also have 3 different auras they'll go through. The red aura that they have gives them instant break on all of their attacks, so guaranteed break on your units, which also increases attack and speed. Most attacks they hit you with in this form will actually cause delay as well, and you need to be very careful about that, obviously. And if they drop below 30% HP while they're in the red aura, they will stay in it, so something to keep in mind if you are getting close to that 29-30% mark, to wait for them to get out of that aura, unless you're doing a strategy like what I'm doing, which I'll explain in further detail in a bit. You can see the comp on screen now as the fight's progressing. They have the yellow aura, which will last for 2 turns after they come out of red, which makes them highly resistant to bravery and HP damage until they're broken. They also can't be launched, and when they enter this mode they gain 70,000 bravery and take, basically, like I said, a lot of reduced bravery damage, so you do need to rely on something like instant break to deal with that. And their blue aura, which is their third one, is the low threat aura basically for this fight. It doesn't really provide them with any massive benefits. As a matter of fact, it actually debuffs them, lowering their attack and speed. It's supposed to signify the bosses are tired and makes them easier to deal with. Last thing to keep in mind, and this hasn't been in any of the Lufenia fights I can think of for a while, is when one of them is killed, the other one will gain 100% bravery damage reduction and a 50% bravery gain reduction. So basically you do need to be careful about trying to kill them close together. Don't let them get that buff, as it will make them a lot more difficult to deal with in the final phases of the fight. That all being said, there's a couple of different ways to tackle this fight. The default way is obviously deal with the orb, put debuffs up, tank through the fight, use stuff like Gladio or Sellers, get through the fight, Eldnarch Terror to stop them from attacking, etc, etc. Just take it like a normal fight and deal with what the fight's going to throw at you. Or, as you can see from what I'm doing on screen, you can go for a very launch-heavy based strategy and just try and race the bosses to the 29%, get rid of the orb, and then just finish them off before they have much of a chance to attack you, which is the strategy I decided to go with. And so you can see my team composition obviously centers entirely around trying to get as much launch as possible and as much damage up during launch as possible. So with this fight, we've got Cloud, obviously. We want his burst phase and just the sheer amount of launching he can do. We want Keiss, he's the best support for any launch-based team. And just to deal with the Lufenia orb in the early stages of the fight to get the count high enough, because it does go up past the 15 initial up to 18 when you put the debuff triggered to reduce their bravery. We've brought along Dark Knight Cecil, so he can use his LD to put up a sap and framed debuff, sap effect debuff I should say, which they aren't immune to, and get that bravery reduction so that we can get the count up to 18 and then continue on with the rest of the fight. A couple of other key parts of the strategy: we're bringing along Jack to increase bravery damage so that we can get as much out of the launches as possible. We're bringing along Gabranth as well, because he's got all of his framed debuffs that you can get off his call. Both these are call units obviously, so that we can get as much damage up during those launches as well as possible via, bravery damage up and defense down, everything we can get there. And lastly, for a call, example, I've brought along Onion Knight just to get some extra free skills and set up launches and move everyone around using his LD call there. Also brought along Ramza as a friend unit, which brings more launch and delay, as well as his burst effect going into Cloud's burst phase, giving a lot more DPS there as well during that, as we're getting that increased bravery damage and the cap there from his burst ability. Apart from that, not too much more to say. I guess you could bring Pandemonium for this fight. I tried a couple of attempts with it, and when I got towards the end of the fight and had to use the summon, put me in danger of dying to the bosses because I kept increasing their bravery. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure that if you take out Dark Knight Cecil, for example, in a similar team comp to replace him with friend Ramza, you want him to come back before the summon phase so you can actually get some breaks on them. And also in that sort of situation, don't be afraid to use Keiss's Selkie Chase Brave during launch phases, so that way you can get the guaranteed drop back to 0 bravery on them during the summon, because as I said, they absorb wind, so Pandemonium's not the best option for a summon. I went with Odin. It does increase Dark Knight Cecil's bravery damage and how much damage he puts out, because he gets that massive attack increase for going below 80% HP right off the bat when he uses LD call, LD ability, not LD call. And then, yeah, basically launch him, do as much damage as possible, finish him off as quick as possible afterwards. Very short turn count on this one, 32 turns. I've seen a few people online getting even lower with similar comps, so, you know, mess around with it if you want, or obviously you can try the proper strategy with the debuffs and run a more traditional team, but I'd recommend this one. This one was much easier to sort of, you know, cheese your way through it. If you have any questions about anything with this comp or with the fight in general, do ask in the comments down below. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the video and thank you for watching.
からだ。目にも止まらぬってね。受け取りだ。行くぞ。限界を超える。飛べ。行け。